Thank you, Candace. All right. So the various populations that we are going to be focusing on are EOPS serves low-income students. We have a program that serves foster youth. We end up seeing a number of students that are home insecure. Then we've got DSPS that's going to discuss students with disabilities. The single parents are typically, we see them in our program, dreamers, veterans, and international students. We're focusing on various target populations. Next slide. I wanted to start this presentation talking a little bit about why we have this special population support groups. With EOPS, we're focusing on some of the most vulnerable students on our campus. I mentioned we tend to see homeless students. We see students with food insecurities, student parents, single parents. And when I'll go into detail in terms of what I mean when I say low income, because it's when you look at the number, especially in the San Diego area, it makes you realize that the students are living with a very limited monthly budget. So the students typically are facing challenges, and COVID, the pandemic, in addition to this online environment, I think have really heightened some of the concerns that our students are facing. And so we did a survey of our students to have a better understanding of what are some of the concerns that they have and some of the issues that are facing. And you know, the digital divide, some students have a difficult time accessing stable internet services. They can't afford to upgrade the services to be able to have multiple laptops, and so that's a struggle. Sometimes not having access to a computer, meeting their basic needs. I had mentioned food and housing insecurities. We are seeing mental health, a lot of mental health, anxiety, stress, depression. And then, of course, our students typically have competing priorities, but now even more so in this environment where we're seeing a lot of students having to share their space with other family members who may be also working from home. If they have children who are being homeschooled, there is a lot of factors that are sort of affecting their ability to focus in school. And so we have to take all those things into consideration when we're working with our students and how to best support them. Next one. So a little bit of information regarding the programs that are in our office. We have EOPS, which is sort of the umbrella program. And under EOPS, we have CARE and NextUp. EOPS, all the programs focus on retention, completion, and transfer. That's the purpose of the programs, and it's a focus on educationally and economically disadvantaged students. We also have CalWORKs as part of our office, and that's a standalone program, and that's for students who are receiving cash aid. And the purpose of the program is to move them into economic self-sufficiency. Next up, it's specifically targets foster youth, and it's a subpopulation of foster youth students. So not all students that have been in the foster care system necessarily qualify for NextUp. It focuses on students who are in the system after the age of 16 and up to the age of 26. So we're able to provide additional services to those students. Our CARE program is for students who are EOPS, but also are single parents, and they are receiving cash aid either for themselves or their children. I'll tell you more about the benefits that we're able to offer the various groups that we support in our office. Next. So who are our students? This graph here gives you a comparison of the general Miramar College population and the EOPS students that we serve in our office. And as you can see, there is, when it comes to groups that are disproportionately impacted, EOPS office is seeing a lot of those students. And one thing that, as I was looking at the data, that I found was really interesting was that when we looked at our white students and disaggregated the data even further, we realized that a large percentage, about 20% of all the students in our program are non-citizens, and so they're either resident or refugee status. And so even within our white student population, we have this subgroup of students who identify themselves as white, but the majority of them are non-citizens and refugees. And so that brings about this other set of factors and challenges as non-native language, English language speakers, and most of them are immigrants to this country. Can you go back, Rachel? Sorry. I wanted to talk about what low income in terms of eligibility means. We have a family of four should be making under $37,650. And when we think about that, the standard of the cost of living in San Diego, our students are definitely considered low income. In terms of eligibility requirements, it's a state funded program, so they have to be California residents. I talked about low income. 12 units is typically what we're looking for. We have some flexibility this semester in that we're able to allow an unlimited number of students at 9 to 11.5 units. We have some flexibility each semester, but now because of COVID, we've been given even an increased level of flexibility in terms of the number of students that are below the 12 units that we can allow into the program, but they do have to be at least 9 units unless they have a DSPS accommodation for a lower unit requirement for full unit equivalency. Educationally disadvantaged. And with that, we look at students that end up having a specific GPA in high school. They're considered first generation college students. They're foster youth. English is their second language. They're part of the DI populations, or they used to place into developmental level courses. That has gone away. So now we're looking at students that end up placing into courses that have the 101X or the 96X, where they're getting some additional support. Next one. And lastly, I want to go over a list of the services that we are able to offer. So we provide at the very core, EOPS and CalWORKs are a counseling program, and we have financial benefits on top of that. Our students are required to meet with our counselor 3 times during the semester, and so we're able to build a level of connection with those students, and I think that becomes one of the key things in our program. We provide top tier prior registration, and the reason I call it top tier is first day, first time slot that our EOPS students are able to register. We try to develop a sense of community, which is difficult to do in this environment, but we do our best to communicate with students using virtual chats, and when we're on campus, we'll provide activities and workshops where students can develop that sense of community. We will pay for their health fee, and we consider those all sort of retention initiatives. And then we've got the financial support piece. And so we have a lending program for laptops as well as calculators. We provide transportation assistance when students are on campus, so either a parking permit or a bus pass. We provide a book service each semester, and so we give students a bookstore credit that they're able to use. And we will help them with things like honor society fees, transfer fees, if those are not being covered already by the program. And how do you contact us? The last one. Next slide. We are, our office hours are 8 to 6, our virtual office hours, and 8 to 3 p.m. We've recently started offering a virtual front desk. And so students can actually, this is on our website, they can click on this banner and they will be, during those times, and they will be directed to a Zoom meeting room where they can meet with our front desk staff to ask general questions about the program. So if you have any students that may be interested in learning more about the program, just direct them to our website. We also, our general email, and usually it's a day or two before students get a response from our office. So those, but I think the drop-ins, it's probably the best way to contact us. Any questions regarding EOPS or CalWORKs? All right, I will hand it over to Candace for the DSPS piece.
Okay, so disability support programs and services. I've put a copy of our mission statement here for you. I just wanted to point out that our program is committed to serving individuals with disabilities. The students do have to have a verified disability. So in other words, they do have to provide some sort of documentation to us from a medical provider stating what that disability is. And our program is a mandated program. You'll find a program like ours in every college and university that receives federal funds because we're complying with both the Americans with Disabilities Act, which is federal civil rights legislation, and also with Title V regulation that relates more closely to California Education Code. And our main goal is to provide academic accommodations to students so that they can be successful in their academics and have full access and ability to participate in all that the college has to offer. So not just instruction, but also in all of the student services, clubs, activities, things of that nature that go on that really talk not just about instruction, but about student life in general. So who we serve, we've got a breakdown of the categories of disability. These categories that you see on the left-hand side of the chart are categories that are given to us by the state chancellor's office. So we don't pick these ourselves. And so each student falls into one of these areas. Last year, we served 835 students. Our program is voluntary, so students do self-select to participate in our services if they want to receive accommodations and academic advising, disability management counseling, that sort of thing. So this is just to say that not all students with disabilities on the campus are part of our program, but they volunteer to participate. So of those 835, the three highest categories of disability that we serve are learning disabilities, mental health conditions, and attention deficit. Under mental health, that's going to include things like depression, bipolar, post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety. Learning disabilities have a lot of kind of subterms that you may hear, such as dyslexic, dysgraphia, dyscalculia. Those are really all just types of processing disorders that folks can have, but they all fall under the broader category of a learning disability. And then autism includes autism and Asperger's syndrome. Most people are familiar nowadays that autism is a spectrum. So anything that falls in the autism spectrum would go there. Other is a category that I like to talk a little bit more about. This is kind of a really broad category. We find that when people think about individuals or students with disabilities, they tend to think of what I would call kind of the obvious ones or the visible disabilities. So you might think about students who use a wheelchair or students who have a hearing impairment or vision impairment, things that you can really kind of see with your eyes as you look at them because you can see their mobility device, or you can see the white cane that they use, or you can see the interpreter that comes to class with them. But the truth is that the majority of disabilities are hidden, are things that are not able to be seen. So other is one category where a lot of these things fall. And these can include things like students with cancer, students with diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, migraine headaches, So we really like to get the word out that there are a lot of conditions that students have that they may not necessarily think of themselves as disabled per se, but the symptoms or the impacts that come along with it, such as pain or medications they may take that may affect their concentration, their energy level throughout the day, all of those sorts of things would make them eligible for our services. And then I also wanted to mention temporary. You won't see that here in the categories. Most of the time we put temporary disabilities somewhere else. So for example, if a student were to break their leg or if they were to break their wrist, that would fall under mobility. But this would perhaps be temporary. You know, they would have a cast for a certain number of weeks. But during that time, let's say if it was the wrist example, they would need some support taking notes in class or writing their assignments out. Another good example of a temporary disability, one that would fall under other in this case, is pregnancy. So it could be that while a female student is pregnant, she might need some modifications based on, again, energy level. Certainly if she was having any sort of complications with the pregnancy, that could be a reason that they might gain some temporary support from our office. Next slide. And I'm gonna hand it over to my colleague, Christina.
Hi there. My name is Cristina Garibay Taylor, and I am a part-time counselor at DSPS. And so a little bit about our services and supports. As you can see right here, we've outlined the 4 categories that stand out from our program. And the first one is counseling. So we provide disability management counseling as well as academic advising from a disability lens. So for example, a student wants to take maybe 15 units, and after much conversation, we know much conversation in the history the student has as far as academics, we know that he or she really cannot handle 15 units based on their disability. And so that would be an example. We look at the disability when we're planning for courses and selecting classes, maybe not fully online, but hybrid. So there's different things that we have to look at and take into account when we're providing academic advising. The second category is academic accommodations. So some of the accommodations we provide are priority enrollment, testing accommodations, the use of training in assistive technology, note-taking or recording, interpreting and captioning, as well as alternate media formats. Some of the training, or I should say all of the assistive technology training, is done in the high-tech center. So we would refer students to Rochelle in the high-tech center. As far as partnerships, we partner with instructors, we collaborate with instructors when needed. And we also refer students to other resources within the campus and outside to the community when needed. And we also collaborate with vocational services providers such as Workability 3 and Department of Rehabilitation as well. We work with them in referring students. And then the last category is outreach. So we do a lot of high school visits where we go and we just talk about our program, how to apply to our program. And we also go to different classrooms when requested by the instructor, and we present a little bit on our program. And finally, we also provide trainings and workshops within the community. And like I said, with different departments in the college. And then one last thing. So at the end or at the bottom of the slide, you see something that says accommodations are individually determined through an interactive process. So you know, you might have two students with the same disability, but we have to take into account their individual experience, and there might be something about their disability that is different, and therefore we have to take that into account when determining accommodations. Every student is unique, even though they might have the same disability. Next. And then finally, how to contact our office. So our hours are Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then Friday from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. How to request an appointment. So students can go to our website and they'll find a link to requesting a remote counseling appointment. So they can just click on the link and that will trigger the form. And now, and maybe Candice can chime in, but we recently got phones. So 3 of our 2 staff members and Candice have access to a phone now. So students can contact our office if they wish by calling our office number. Now the hours are limited. So, you know, we have to take that into account, but students are also welcome to email our office, and here's our email. Our website is right below that. And also new is the Canvas shell. Students who complete the intake are enrolled into our Canvas shell, and where they have access to different workshops and webinars, different information that they might find useful. So that's something very new. I haven't had an opportunity to explore it, but I know Candice, if she wants to chime in, she can provide more information. And that's it. Questions? I think we're good.
Thank you, Christina. I would like to introduce Armando. He's going to talk to us a little about the Veterans Affairs Office.
So here at the Veterans Affairs Office, our goal is to support and advocate for veterans and military affiliated students in their transition to the San Diego Miramar College and their pursuit of intellectual and personal development. So we not only help military members and veterans, we also help their dependents that might qualify for certain benefits. Next slide, please. So in order to show you our who we serve and how we serve them, I decided to put up the steps for processing VA educational benefits, because they're a little bit different than what the normal population goes through. So for instance, the first step for our veterans and their dependents, depending on what benefits they might qualify for, is to actually apply for the benefits to the Department of Veterans Affairs. Typically, when they accept their application, they will get a certificate of eligibility. We call it a COE all the time. It's usually processed and mailed to the student 30 to 45 days after they submit their application. They also have to apply to the college. And once they receive their application, what we do is if they're still active military, we take their military ID card and we use that to punch in the numbers in our military data page so that they could get priority registration. If they're already out of the military, we use their DD-214 and we use their separation date to do that. The next step is setting up an education plan. So all students have to establish an education plan, mostly because every VA enrollment certification that we do has to follow an approved education plan that's both in our catalog and been approved by the Department of Veterans Affairs. They could take classes anywhere. However, they have to do their paperwork where their classes, where their education plan is, sorry. Students are responsible for paying any enrollment fees that are not covered by the VA educational benefits. And a quick example of this is if they're taking a exercise science course, the VA won't cover that because most of the students go through boot camp, they get credit for that already. The next step is registering for classes. They get priority registration. So we try it. I'm grateful that Miramar does priority registration for our veteran population because not all colleges do. And this makes the process a little bit easier for them, and they're able to pick a favorable schedule for them. Can we go to the next slide? So student documentation, the student needs to turn in certain documents in order for us to be able to process them. They have to turn in their certificate of eligibility. We have a statement of understanding, which lays out our terms, and they have to agree to them in order for us to process their benefits. They have to turn in their DD-214 and their deferment contract. Any changes done to the schedule, a student's responsible to turn in a class adjustment form so that we could go into the system and properly add and drop them from however many units they might have been in. Some of the programs that are affiliated with veterans and their dependents are listed to the right. The first one would be the Veterans Readiness and Employment. It used to be the Vocational Rehabilitation Program. So any student with over 20% disability rating can get into the special program. It offers you a monthly stipend, it pays for books, and it pays for tuition, as long as it's not out-of-state tuition. Chapter 35, the Dependents Educational Assistance Program, is given to any dependent of a veteran that's either 100% disabled or deceased. This gives the student a monthly stipend, which really helps out, especially here in San Diego with the cost of living that's so high. The students that fall into that criteria can apply for this benefit and start receiving the monthly stipend. I put CalVet college fee waiver on here because it pertains to veterans. This is given to any dependent whose sponsor is 0% disabled or more. It essentially pays for their college tuition. The reason why I put Chapter 35 on top of this is because they kind of go hand in hand. If they qualify for Chapter 35, then they more than likely will qualify for the CalVet fee waiver. However, the CalVet fee waiver is an application on its own, and I put the links down there so that the student could find out where to turn in their application. Our last benefit that we offer there is the Chapter 33, the post 9/11 GI Bill. This is the majority of our students use this benefit, and Chapter 33 recipients receive a housing allowance that is prorated by the service member's length of service percentage. So to be eligible for the housing allowance rates, the student has to have a rate of pursuit greater than 50%, not equal to it. So this could mean the difference between getting $2,000 a month to nothing. And these educational benefits are very important because the cost of living here is so much. With these three benefits, however, they can also get employment at the VA office. We are allowed to hire work studies, and we hire a few every semester. And it's really helpful for the veteran. It gets them a job in school, which is very convenient. You leave your class, you go to work, and it gives them experience. Next slide, please. So this is our contact information. I decided to put our faces on the right-hand side here, just because in this digital world, we don't usually have a name to a face. So our VA school certifying officials are myself, Eileen Fuerte, and Ron Felix. If you have any students with any specialized questions, because not every situation is the same, please feel free to email us. We'll get back to you. As long as you email all three of us, one of us will get back to you as soon as we can. We have students turn in all their documents to the Miramar email. So it's miramarveterans@sdccd.edu. I put a link to our website, which has all this information on there. And our hours of operation are Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Fridays, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. That's about it. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Thank you, Armando, for that information. I appreciate it.
No problem.
All right, so now we have our international student program, and unfortunately, Kevin was not able to join us. However, we are lucky in that we have our Dean, Tanya Teresh, and Dana, both of whom are somewhat familiar with our international students program. So they are going to tackle this part of the presentation for us. Thank you, ladies.
Monica, thank you. And Dana's really the guru here on anything that lives under admissions and records. So I don't want to steal your thunder, but I'm also a good team player. So we're going to learn these slides together. Do you mind forwarding the next one?
And Armando is also an expert as well. He's one of our designated school officials, so he is instrumental in the admission of international students, the regulations regarding that, and supporting them while they're here on their journey.
Thank you. So would you mind going through the application process, since this is definitely in your wheelhouse?
All right. So we accept students for international admission for the fall semester and the spring semester. We don't accept students for summer because that's a very short-term session for us, and we'd like our students to get off to a great start by joining a regular term versus a short-term session. So the International Student Program has a dedicated staff and faculty to facilitate the needs of our international students. We have a small population currently of students. We have 20 students that we're currently serving. We accept a few students each semester. We review the application to make sure that they have the financial ability to be here, whether that is they have their own finances or they have the support of the sponsor, that they have a good health report. There are a number of items that need to be checked off on the application by a healthcare professional, such as immunizations and TB testing. Additionally, students are required to have English language skills ability, and they can either complete that through, if they studied English at their home country, we might accept that instead of SAT scores or a TOEFL score. A test of English is a foreign language. So we do look through all of their transcripts to ensure that they're viable students. We want to make sure that they're successful while they're here. We are not an English language school. There are other schools in the region for that, so students need to be able to hit the ground running and understand what their professors are teaching them, and also being able to read and write while they're here. So, but we do have resources for that if students find that they need that support before they come to our college and become our student.
Yeah, great. So we provide a comprehensive orientation for our students. And so students are assigned, they can see any counselor they would like to, but they do need to connect regularly with our designated international student counselor. Currently that's Kevin Gallagher, but that does rotate every several semesters. So students should be encouraged to meet with their academic counselor on a regular basis. They receive a long-range educational plan when they have their initial meeting with the counselor. So first they have an orientation where they learn about their rights and responsibilities as a student. They learn about our campus resources. They meet a lot of people. We bring guest speakers so that they can learn more about our campus culture, including all of our resources like library, tutoring, mental health. They learn about police services. They learn about their instructional requirements. But then during that one-on-one counseling session, they get a long-range ed plan where the counselor plots out what courses they'll need to take in order to complete the degree that they're striving for. And they start their transfer planning as well. So hopefully students, often our international students come to us already having an idea of where they're interested in transferring to, because often the interest in coming to a California community college is being part of the priority group that California community colleges students are considered for University of California admissions. But certainly our students can choose to transfer either back to their home countries, to international universities, and other types of universities in the United States. But that counseling session and then those ongoing follow-up sessions allow students to start to hone in on exactly what their degree and major plan is and which university serves them the best. Next slide, please. So, you know, our international students, the definition varies, right? So some international students have, they were born or they lived in another country. They might have completed some of their education in another country. They also might be currently living in the United States. So some of our international students are applying to come to the United States and they are currently outside of the country, but some of our students are currently in the country. Maybe they went to high school here or they are under another visa. And I'll let Dana talk a little bit more about the details of the visas.
So the population that we're referring to is the F1 student visa. So when students apply to the college and we accept them for admission, we issue them an I-20, and then they take that I-20 to their consulate to obtain a F1 visa in order to come into this country and study. We do have, as Tanya said, we have many other students on visas. We have students on working visas, H1, H4, which are dependents. We have permanent residents. We have asylees. We have students on special immigrant visas. We have a number of other visas as well, A, E, every letter of the alphabet, basically. So we do have a really broad population that we serve, but this is in particular for F1 student visas. The programs that we offer to these students are generally, they are a general education pattern. We do have some business, a little bit of vocational, not a lot. We're not able to offer M1 visas, which are more vocational in nature. And this population is precluded from applying as a student for any of our aviation programs. And that was a requirement that occurred with the Department of Homeland Security after 9/11.
Great. We have next slide, please. And so here's the contact information. So as I mentioned, Kevin Gallagher right now is serving as the international counselor. He is in our general counseling office. Dana Stack, the lovely Dana Stack, our admissions supervisor. And Jessica Aguilar is the student services technician who is one of the leads in admissions and records. Dana, is there anything else you wanted to add that might not have been in the slides?
No, I mean, we're a very small office. Like I said, we have a small international student population. Jessica is basically their first point of contact and always their point of contact throughout their journey. If they ever need anything at all, we're here to support our students and provide them with the necessary resources through other offices as well.
Yeah. For classroom faculty in particular, since you have so much direct contact with students, it's like our other student populations. We have resources to support students. We have classified professionals. We have counselors that are here to support students. So if you identify students who seem to be struggling, they seem to have a lot of questions, or they seem to not know kind of what direction to head in next, please definitely refer them back to their international student support team, because we really want to make sure that they have the services that they need. So thank you. Thanks, Monica.
Thank you, Tanya and Dana, for providing that information. I have a question. How many international students do we have on campus?
Well, for the F1 population, it's only 20. small population? That's a really good question. I'll need to actually follow up.
Okay, I was just curious.
No, that is a good question. I know when you think about it, well, not every international student's a non-resident. I know non-residents, we have probably less than 2%, but that's something that I'll need to follow up on.
Okay, thank you. I am sharing the next two presentations with you, or areas. We have a food pantry on our campus. It's called the Jet Fuel Pantry. And typically if we were on campus, then students would be able to access that in the K1 building, the second floor. However, in this online environment, they have weekly food distributions, and typically that email goes out. Joseph Hickinson sends that email and provides information on how students can sign up to take part in the food distribution. It's a drive-through distribution that happens currently on a weekly basis on Wednesdays. So be sure to share that information with students that may benefit from this. Next, and for contact information, if you have any questions, Joseph would be the person to contact. We also have a Dreamer Support Services, and that is a service that provides support to undocumented non-U.S. citizens, AB 540 students, and it provides various support services for those students, which I'm going to cover on the next slide. They provide one-on-one counseling. They also do referrals to legal services through community agencies. Undocumented students don't have the ability to apply for federal aid, and so they can't apply for the FAFSA. So undocumented students instead would be asked to apply through the DREAM Act, and that's for California state aid. They provide assistance with scholarships as well as DACA renewals, and DACA is documentation so the students are able to legally work. And typically students need to apply for that, and it's renewed like every either 2 or 4 years, and there's a cost associated with that. So they provided, the services provide referrals and assistance with that. Referrals to mental health services, as well as providing opportunities for the students to build community through workshops as well as events. And this office also is able to provide undocumented training for faculty and staff, can have a better understanding of the needs of the students and better serve those students. Let me go back to the other slide so I can share the contact information, please, Rachel. So this office, probably the best contact information would be the email at this point, which is miradreamers@sdccd.edu. Any questions or comments? Well, I would like to thank you for joining us today. And I saw that Tarlise is one of our attendees, and I appreciate her being here and just learning more about our programs in her career ambassador role. So thank you for being here, and thank you to all the presenters for joining me. And if there are no other questions, sorry, my dog's barking on the background, then we are going to conclude this presentation.